The John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts here in Washington has expanded for the first time in its 50-year history. Jeffrey Brown takes us behind the scenes as the National Arts Institution launches weeks of free public events tomorrow. The report is part of our ongoing Arts and Culture series, Canvas.
A weekday rehearsal by the National Symphony Orchestra under the baton of music director John Andrea Noseda. And one floor down, dancers finalizing their choreography for an upcoming performance. Nothing unusual, but here at the Kennedy Center, as at most other major performing arts centers, all this is typically behind the scenes, off limits to visitors.
Curve and out and arch.
Now opportunities to watch artists at work, hear lectures, participate in workshops on a regular basis are all part of what Kennedy Center President Deborah Rutter calls a 21st century arts campus.
The Kennedy Center was opened in 1971 when the world was different. The way in which society and our culture was engaging with the arts was different. It was much more of a spectator sport. In this time, and as we look forward, we know that people want to be more connected to the art and the artists, to be more immersed in it, and to participate more in it.
The response here, the Reach, named in honor of President Kennedy's aspirational vision of the arts, and in capital letters to signal something big in the nation's capital. A new nearly 5-acre expansion that we visited as construction was being completed. 3 pavilions containing 10 interior multi-use spaces above and below ground.
Lift your heart, expand there in that space.
And double the outdoor spaces for community and arts programs, including films on a large video wall. Also, garden walks and paths that lead to a pedestrian bridge connecting the Kennedy Center campus to the Potomac riverfront. The project cost $250 million from private philanthropy. It was designed by architect Stephen Hall, known for his use of light and angled walls.
We wanted them to be very porous and very open, and our architects were just in line with us. And so every single space has a window that allows you to peek in and see what's going on. Here we have the skylight.
It's an actual interesting space.
It's really a beautiful space. One of the things that I loved about Stephen Hall's design is how he changes the ceiling as well as the floor and the walls. So you're having a new experience.
I can hear a little music
no matter
in the
where you're working.
too.
I know, well that was
Orchestra
the moment. So you will know things are happening here as well.
A big idea here, find new ways to welcome younger audiences and others who may have felt left out. The John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts opened in 1971 as a living memorial to the slain president. It was and is imposing, with grand hallways and theaters, housing traditional high arts such as the Washington Opera and the National Symphony. It regularly presents the world's greatest artists, as well as special nationally recognized programs such as the Kennedy Center Honors and the Mark Twain Awards. But it's also faced its share of criticism. When it opened, the New York Times architecture critic dubbed the building, designed by Edward Durrell Stone, a pompous embarrassment and national tragedy. And it's long struggled with a sense of isolation, a geographic and elite island apart from the surrounding city. To counter that, the center began its popular and free Millennium stage performances, and has widened its programming with the help of prominent artists such as jazz pianist Jason Moran and rapper and producer Q-Tip, as well as classical stalwarts Yo-Yo Ma and Renee Fleming. The Reach is intended as the next big leap forward.
The Reach has formal studio spaces, classroom spaces that invite a different level of community interaction. So now we have a space that's more of an incubator, that's more of a laboratory.
Mark Bamuti Joseph is a dancer, poet, and theater artist.
Whisk the man back to life with unborn whisper.
And also a leading arts administrator. He recently left the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts in San Francisco to join the Kennedy Center. We talked in the so-called Moonshot Experimental Art Space about his hybrid role as vice president and artistic director of social impact.
that's the transition between a performing arts center that shows art and a performing arts center that sees itself as an agent for making culture itself. And so part of my gig is to design and administer programs that maximize cross-sector conversations and maximize this idea that we don't just watch culture, we make culture. So it becomes more of a workshop space than a place for witness, although you can witness lots of great art here too.
Indeed, the Reach is opening with a 16-day free celebration of performances featuring prominent artists.
Ready?
But it's also offering new programs for the local community to allow students like rising high school senior Anna Irwin to work with professional dancers.
So how's the new space?
Oh, I love it. Personally, it is the biggest studio I've seen, and wow.
A new culture caucus will bring in 15 area artists to brainstorm new art to showcase. And a social practice residency will create art in and for communities in the Washington, D.C. area. All ideas to address problems many arts organizations are wrestling with today, as traditional audiences age and younger generations spend more time alone on their screens. What's the central problem for performing arts institutions today in American culture?
I think that we need to underscore the joy of being together. That social infrastructure that is so important and that in some ways is missing in our lives.
Inevitably, too, when it comes to the arts in the nation's capital, the political divisions that seep into everything today. I asked Mark Bamuti Joseph how that impacts his thinking about the Reach.
Truth and memory are tenuous resources in the current climate, and that does make me sad. So in that vacuum where memory is a little more tenuous and history is more vulnerable, is a realm of ideas that somebody has to propagate. Someone has to be responsible not only for the moral infrastructure of this country, but the infrastructure of imagination. And if it's not going to be an arts center, then we're doomed.
To which one might say in hope, let the festivities begin, which they will this weekend. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Jeffrey Brown at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C.
It is a special place.